Okay. Hello, my name's David. When I was younger, I did some mountain climbing with friends, and one day we set out to do a one-day climb of Mount Hood, and that's in Oregon. And the initial concern that we had with the weather was more sunburn than anything else because of the glare. And we always checked the weather. We checked with the Weather Bureau and everything else, making sure the weather was going to be fine. And we were climbing what on that mountain would be considered a moderate difficulty climb, which was over a lot of snowfields with many crevasses, and so it was just a little tricky. You had to really pay attention to what you were doing. There, on that particular route, you come up to where you can see on the other side of the mountain, and we saw this storm. It's the same thing that happened when they lost a lot of people on Everest. A storm comes in from a very low, very big storm, and you can tell that. And so we were forced to be making a decision. Do we push to the summit and potentially come down an easier route, or if we got caught in a whiteout, what would we do with the more difficult route in all the snowfields with the crevasses that we had just come across? And we made a decision to go ahead and push up to the summit. And we did get hit by a complete whiteout. And by a whiteout, literally you can't tell up from down. You just can't tell anything about direction or anything. And there were 6 of us, and one of the climbers, he was a novice, and he was starting to tire and was having struggles, in the climb. And at one point, because of the complete whiteout, the route we were going to take was the simplest route, with the exception of there's this one huge, what's called a Bergstrom, which is a big crevasse. And anyway, the point being that we decided at some point the conditions were bad enough that we would dig in for the night. We had no sleeping bags, we had no tents, so we just dug 2 snow caves with the idea that the next morning we'd get up and get down the mountain. To make a long story short, what we thought was just a freak storm turned out to be a 3-day storm. And so I haven't told the story in a while. What happened is it became literally a question of survival. I will kind of cut out a lot of the details, but one of our party died. All of us suffered from different degrees of frostbite and hypothermia. If we had not been rescued on the 3rd day, we would not have, none of us would have been. And so, anyway, it's hard to describe, but you have to, under those conditions, really struggle to survive. I mean, you have to force yourself to move, you have to force yourself to try to eat, and one of our party basically, we felt, gave up, and he's the one who died. You try to encourage somebody, you switch around in the snow cave so that he would end up with more warmth between people. Some of us just stayed on the outside. And finally, on day 3, we ended up, the weather broke. And the other thing which I will just mention, periodically, because you're in a snow cave, you don't hear the weather, you don't hear the storm. And so periodically you had to climb out of the snow cave and break open the entrance to see what the weather was like. And on the 3rd day, there was finally some break in the weather. 2 of the people decided to stay in the snow cave. 3 of us decided that if we weren't going to make it, we wanted to be moving and trying to get down the mountain. And we got down the mountain, I don't know, part way when, the rescue teams finally came up with us and caught up with us. And then, fortunately, the physician who worked with us was a physician who had been in the Army and knew the latest techniques around.
Any chance you leave tomorrow? We are planning on it, yes.
You-
I